Hi, welcome back to Ask a Jew, where a secular, sinful Israeli speaks to her holy religious friend. I'm Yael, here with Chayla. Happy 2026. We're here with our deadbeat podcast daddy, Michael Moynihan. You might know him from the Fifth Column, the Moynihan Report, Bill Maher. You might have seen him wandering around the streets in your neighborhood yelling to himself. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You're always a crowd favorite and a host favorite, too.
You know what I
appreciate that. Yeah.
I was telling my husband that I feel like you coming on is like when when your parents would force you to take your sibling to a party and like you didn't want to, but like you felt bad and they forced you to. So you were stuck with this like sibling. That's what I feel like we are to you. Like we forced you to come on.
The other way, you were forced to have me on. It was nice.
Matt keeps texting us and be like, can you please have Michael on?
No, I mean the opposite. Like,
as we were just saying, the people who say to me that I found out about the Fifth Column through Ask a Jew, it kind of reminds me of a similar thing when, you have a friend and you introduce them to another friend of yours and they become close. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I like that. We're friends. This is my friend that you're. So when they do that to me, I feel a little bad about it, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, we appreciate that you don't mind coming on your little sister's show and giving us time. So
Absolutely
thank you. Because now you're big leagues now. Like
you're big time.
Yeah.
Now
what are you hanging out with Marjorie Taylor Greene and
we were reading the Talmud together this afternoon.
I heard she has a lot of insights about the Talmud.
She was pointing out a lot of interesting things that I was unaware that
I
want
get to the part where it's a mitzvah to rape Palestinian babies.
You eat them, I thought. I can't remember.
Yeah, after you rape.
Her translation was a little different.
So. I know.
She had the Nick Fuentes translation.
Yeah, Nick Fuentes. So they all speak perfect Hebrew. I was surprised by that.
I just think it's hilarious when people bring up the Talmud because, like, it is so stupid of people to bring it up. It makes it just idiotic. Like you don't know anything. You have no idea what you're talking about. My boys sit and study Talmud for 5-6 hours a day in Aramaic. Like it is about oxen falling and because they slipped on their own pee and broke your neighbor's.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's got
to pay. Yeah,
it's about a lot about oxen.
Yes, there are a lot of oxen.
It's very oxen heavy.
It's very oxen heavy. I'd be on Oxy if I was reading that. I'd be like just swallowing pills. But I like that people go to the Talmud because they don't go to the Talmud. Actually, they find some
website. They go to Twitter. Yeah,
it's like a picture that was on Instagram, and it's like this is from the Talmud. And I'm like, I don't know if I rely on that, but people tend to not really check their sources these days.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about this the other day that like every once in a while, like my mom or somebody will send me a photo of a celebrity, and it's like I don't know, Sean Connery, and it says, "I have always stood with Israel."
Yeah, that's my everyone does.
And I was like, when did he say this, and to whom? And
I love it was a Sean Connery. He's like, I love Israel.
Yeah,
it's a great place. It's like, really? I don't know, but I do get excited when I find out. One that didn't surprise me, but I saw then reposted by a bunch of like pro-Israel accounts is my dear friend's sister-in-law Juliette Lewis, the actress.
Yes.
Oh, really?
She's great. And she posted this thing about, I stand with my Jewish friends and like in front of a picture of I think it was an Israeli flag or something, but it was something that posted it. It was in LA or in somebody's house or something, which is really terrifying that I was like, oh, good for her. That seems like a normal thing to do when people are being slaughtered in Australia and the United States. And whatever. Like that doesn't seem like a big lift, but I was impressed by it. So.
I will never forget that. And I think I wrote a piece about it when Khloe Kardashian posted on October 7th, like I stand with Israel, and then deleted it. And I was like, uh-oh, shit's going to go down. Like
she wanted to remain friends with the Hadid family, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know. Someone asked me this week if I feel like it's dying down, like especially on campus and what's
the
going on.
Somalia thing has been great for us. I'm just saying like on a personal level.
Yeah, but until they start investigating Williamsburg and Borough Park, I hope they don't
I was thinking about that too.
I don't think this is telling tales out of school, but our mutual friend Noam, who did text me something very similar, was like, "I really hope they don't get the Hasidic stuff because imagine." He is Jewish, so he's. I imagine there's probably some scams being run.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. And honestly, fine.
Yeah.
No, but
if they're doing that, then
in defense of the Hasidic community, first of all, there is a lot of poverty. So it's not really going to enrich
and Islamophobia too, right, Kyla?
No, yeah. I'm just saying there is a lot of poverty, and most of what they're doing is legit. It's just, we know how to play the system. Like, if you make stupid rules, like, expect stupid results. Like, that's it. Sorry. I mean,
yeah, the Hasidic community in New York City is great, because to steal a joke from somebody in a roast battle with David Tell, said David Tell's the man that proves that Jews can be poor. So it's very funny, but it's like, yeah, you go around, like when I did my Shabbos Goy thing, I went into that house that time, and I was like, oh, that's not the nicest place in the world.
Exactly.
It's just people like warehouse.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help when you have 18 kids.
That can produce a little more poverty when you have to.
Yeah. But we had a listener wrote to us who's a Satmar. I need to write him back. It was a really, really nice email. It was really interesting. And I love that. I was like, oh my gosh, I love that like a Satmar is listening to us. And
but
he
as
pointed out a lot of things that I don't know.
I think I said this at the time when because I was drunk, by the way. That was a problem when I did my righteous Gentile thing of like turning off a breast pump.
Oh my God.
Was it connected?
I didn't know. I just got in there and I was like, it was the beginning of COVID and everyone was having funerals and I was like, I think I should get out of here. But but yeah, it was a bit. But the thing about it is, when people ask you, and the guy like hopped out of a corridor and said, "Are you Jewish?" And as I joked at the time, at different times and places in history, the answer is different. Yeah. Like, "Are you Jewish?" I'm like, I don't, what? Yeah, no. Because the answer was yes.
Where you're like, my name is Michael Moynihan.
Yeah, so, I was like, what are you talking? You want the breast pump up? Nah, I gotta go. But I should have done that. But I was like, no. And then next thing you know, I'm put to work. It was incredible. But the thing about it is that the reputation of the Hasidic community in this city is only, if you ask people who are not Jewish, I mean, Jewish people too, they say they just don't talk to you.
Yeah.
They'll have no interaction with you. Right. Walk by and say hi, nothing.
Right.
Go into the Hasidic grocery store. It's like, they don't even want my money. They're like, what are you doing here? Yeah. I'm like, I'm getting the can of Coke Zero that you imported from Israel for some reason.
It's extra kosher.
It has Hebrew lettering on it. You're like, then I can buy it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the difficulty of the interaction, I think, is what creates any bad
true.
There. You know what they say about Jews? They don't need you until a breast pump needs to be turned off.
Yeah, it sounds better in Hebrew, by the way.
Yeah. The Talmud.
Yeah, that's the one right after the ox passage is the one about the breast pump.
Listen, as someone who has had to ask a non-Jew to do things for me many, many times in my life, it is not comfortable.
What's the most awkward one you had?
Well, I mean, in my own home, I don't mind, but it's very awkward when we're in a hotel and I stop someone and I'm like, can you come into my hotel room and do this thing? And so if it's someone who's like from an urban center,
cash on me.
Yeah. Like if it's someone from an urban center, it's usually fine. Cause like they know, and they, whatever, like we were just in New York and we stayed at a hotel in Manhattan. All the workers were like, if you need us to press the elevator button for you, just ask, they were, cause they get it. But like when I was in Utah, and we've spent Shabbat in a hotel in Utah, and everything is electronic now. Like you have, the key is electronic, and we can't. So they were. I mean, it was very awkward. It was very, very uncomfortable.
Yeah, if you do it in New York, it's different because nobody understands this type of Judaism better than Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The entire hotel staff's like, yeah, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
I love the Puerto Rican. There's a kosher market here in the Upper West Side. And like all the Puerto Ricans that work there know more about Judaism than I do.
Oh yeah.
Like one time I went and I asked like for the snack, and it was during Passover, and the guy was like, no, it's kidneyot. You can't have that. Like, we don't have that right now, which is because it's like not kosher for Passover. He's like lecturing me.
Yeah, he's either a jet or a shark, but when he's at the place, he's a Jew.
I want to just tell you, you're going to think, I think I've told this story before, but I'll share it again. My husband and I were on vacation in a city in Mexico, a very nice place in Mexico at a very nice resort. And when I tell you the story, you'll understand how nice this place was. But one of the problems with modern hotels is that everything is now it's sensors, right? Like the bathroom lights are censored, everything. You don't turn anything on or off. And that's not compatible with Shabbat observance, because if you're causing the light to go on or off, you're breaking Shabbat rules. So you can't really
I thought it was the physical interaction of like pressing the button.
It's causing any kind of reaction like
should have
that.
gotten to that in the Talmud.
So my husband, who thank God,
AI.
They should do a new version.
This is the difference between my husband and I, because I would have been like, I don't care. I'm just going to, it's fine. Whatever. Like, that's life. We can't do anything about it. My husband's actually an Orthodox Jew who actually cares about Jewish law and like making sure he keeps it. So he's like, no, we can't. We're not going to be able to stay here for Shabbat if we can't fix it. So we had a little concierge person who was like our butler on this trip, and named Carlos. So Baruch's like, Carlos, I have a problem. And he tells him the problem. Carlos pulls up in a little, like, buggy, and he unscrewed all the switches in the room and put in regular light switches that just go on or off.
By the way, that is the most Orthodox Jewish thing, followed by the most Mexican thing I've ever heard in my life. He's like, I'll do the labor. Fine.
I hope you tipped him well.
Trust me, we did. But I mean, how amazing. And he changed all the in our hotel so that we could have our lights on for Shabbat. I mean,
Carlos.
They've probably dealt with this before. So
I have a feeling.
Get the electrical equipment. We got a couple of Orthodox people coming.
Yeah. And you could tell it was not a Marriott courtyard by the Marriott, because they would never help you with that. But it was very sweet. Anyway,
you should leave a nice review on Yelp.
We did. We were very.
All the Jews come here.
If you do that these days, it probably will adversely affect them. So it's nice to Jews.
Well, somebody wrote. We posted this on our Substack, but a woman on Twitter wrote the story that she was stopping at like some crappy motel in on the way from Vegas to LA. And she's Orthodox, and they wanted to pray, but there was a big party or something, and they couldn't find a room. So they went to the hotel manager, and they're like, is there a place we can pray? He was Indian, and he like hooked them up with a room, and then he got them like cupcakes, and he's like, they're kosher for your kids. It was such a nice like little story.
Michael,
it's just being decent.
Yeah, exactly.
It's being
nice. I know.
Yeah, so
Michael,
the bar is very low.
Let
he
me
didn't try to kill
question.
her, which was amazing. Yeah.
I have a serious question, Michael. Do you believe in God?
As I get older,
yeah. Like right now, what's your feeling on?
I don't want to be all Pascal's wager about it, but no, I've had more kind of private interactions. The thing that's hard about it is that you have to separate the people who believe in God from the actual belief in God, which is something that I find in politics is a pretty common thing. Is I don't want to be on the side of an issue because I don't like the people on that side. Is so frequently what motivates politics of people that I know who aren't political and like live in Brooklyn and are college educated. They're like, ooh, those are the icky people who believe that. If you say like DEI programs seem to be a complete waste and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, what are you? A great example of this, by the way, was on Stephen Colbert's show when Jon Stewart came on and shocked everybody by saying, hey, guess what? Maybe that stuff escaped from the lab in Wuhan.
Oh, I remember that.
Funny bit about it. And he was like, it's like, where did the chocolate flood come from when you are right next to the Hershey factory?
Like, and everybody's like, wow, we don't know you were QAnon.
Well, Stephen Colbert says, oh, I didn't know I invited Ron Johnson on.
Oh my God.
And it was like to have those beliefs.
Maybe he meant John Ronson. I get them confused all the time.
But he had like to have those beliefs. And I find that kind of is one of the things that I have to fight against when it comes to religion, is just of people and people who use it in a way like, this Jack Posiabek or whatever his name is, who, is clutching his rosary. and warding off, the evil spirits at a TPUSA rally. Like that stuff just gives me the creeps.
Yeah.
And I just think it's like a bad reflection of what becomes kind of popular religion, and, people using like it for, I'm on Ask a Jew. I'll just say this, Christ is king as this kind of dog whistle for a certain type of politics.
Mm-hmm.
So to disaggregate like what religion is now is like increasingly difficult.
Yeah.
Though when I spend, and now it's been 4 years or 3 years, I spend a little part of the summer in Italy, which sounds very posh and everything, but the reason I go is because it's so unbelievably cheap, and Italians are like the nicest of the Europeans. And unless you go to places that are Instagram places, and they hate everybody.
Horrible.
But you go in the middle of nowhere, and you end up going to a lot of churches. And my background is my grandmother is from Calabria, is Italian, and then the Irish on the other side. So it's a kind of a supernova of Catholicism, but which I've been so divorced from. But I'm increasingly interested in it in a way, which is the way that I get into most everything, is kind of an academic way. I like read a lot of books about it, and it pulls you towards belief in a way that hadn't previously. Because when you're younger, there's no limit to life. It ends in many, 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 many years, unless you're really unlucky. Right. So you don't have to actually have any of those like serious questions. But I think about it a lot more than I ever have. A lot more. And, I do the show with our mutual pal, Matt Welch, who is gone in that direction too. Like he goes to church now, which is, I mean, if you had told me that about Matt 10 years ago, I'd be like, did he lose a bet? Like, why is he going to church? And, Emmanuel, his wife, is French and a French Catholic and goes to church too. But I think it is a bit of Pascal's wager, no atheist in a foxhole. As you get closer to the end of things, you say, well, what's happening here? Maybe I should just kind of spread my bets a little evenly. But at the same time, it's like, I don't do it in that cynical of a way. I do actually take it kind of seriously now.
Yeah. I've been thinking like this is.
Oh, go ahead.
This is God. So you go ahead, Chayla.
No, I was going to say that I'm really thinking about this a lot recently, not about religion, because obviously I live a very religious life and I'm very part of a religious community, but actual faith, and like what I think about, is there some force in the world, that controls what's going on? And I grew up obviously thinking that was absolutely the way it was, and I daven, pray to Hashem, God, and then I read the Christopher Hitchens and the Sam Harris and became obsessed with them, and then started to feel, and I'm going to admit this is going to be hard for my mother to hear because she listens, but I started to feel almost idiotic and silly for believing these things, as if I believed in Santa Claus. And, and I went through a long period of time where inside I was really struggling with that, because I was also raising kids to believe that stuff, and then thinking like Christopher Hitchens is laughing at me and thinking I'm an idiot. Right.
That's not true though.
Well, right. All. I know. But just, just the idea that like, it's silly and what are you believing in? But I've come around a little bit to thinking like that personal faith and really like tapping into a spirituality that, exists somewhere, whatever that looks like for a person. It's really important. And I think we need to like talk about it in a way for secular people to like have something to grasp onto, I think. And
I think skepticism is it's necessary for religious people to read, Dawkins and Daniel Dennett and Hitchens and Sam Harris and stuff, because you need your beliefs challenged and you need to kind of understand what people on the other side. But when I kind of interrupted and said that he didn't think that, was because so many people that were close to Christopher were very religious.
Right.
And you can't have a close relationship with somebody if you think that they have contempt for everything that you believe in. Because he didn't have contempt, and that's often misunderstood about Christopher. He, it was Francis Collins, who was the head of the CDC, I think, at the time when Christopher got sick, and he came over. And he was like a concert pianist too. He's like this incredibly brilliant guy, but he was really, really religious. And Christopher was like trusting, his treatment in a way of saying like how what's the best way forward? And, here's a guy who's dealing with science and faith at the same time.
Right.
And they were not in contradiction. And he had a very, very close relationship with Collins and a lot of these people that he debated. And I once asked him who the best debater was. And he told me, which was a real surprise, by the way. He said Dinesh D'Souza was an incredibly skilled debater as a Christian. He said he was like really good at it. But he had very close relationships with all these people. And, because they would do these little barnstorming tours where they'd finish a place and then they'd drive together for Rabbi Wolpe, our friend. He loved Christopher.
Right.
Yeah.
Loved him, and is very good friends with Sam Harris, and like all this stuff can coexist because there's a certain amount of respect when it comes to just kind of the faith traditions and religious belief. I mean, Christopher's thing in God is not great, and I wonder if there's some stuff in that he would have revised, not to go become more religious or say, "Oh, I believe now." But he had this kind of thing, religion poisons everything.
Right.
Because every time he looked at a conflict in the world, there was a religious basis for it. And some kind of, even if it wasn't religious, it took on all of the kind of precepts of religion, like North Korea. I mean, North Korea, one of the most evil states on the planet, which has all of the things one would expect in a religion, a divine. I mean, Kim Jong-un wasn't born. He came to exist on a mountaintop. Or Kim Il-sung, actually. I mean, this is the father, or now at this point the grandfather. So that kind of stuff, and like John McWhorter, when he did his DEI stuff and woke racism, he started that way before anyone was really talking about it. Like 2015 or 16, he wrote a piece for it. Piece for when I think I was actually there at the time at the Daily Beast, saying that, the kind of wokeness has all of the kind of elements of a religion, original sin and all the things, he goes through it like point by point. So that, like Christopher's point about how religions harden into ideology, I think was something that is really, really useful. And the thing is, by the way, we talked about every issue under the sun. I never talked to him about religion.
I know. I've heard you say that. It's amazing. That's incredible.
I saw this documentary once about North Korea where this Nepali doctor went to give cataract surgery to people, which is a really, I guess, simple surgery, but it causes, people who are blind can see. Yeah. And they did hit, like, it was like a documentary about North Korea, but the crew was like, oh, we're just following this doctor. And he put, all these patients come in after the surgery in a big room, and he starts taking off all their things, and they all can see all of a sudden. And what do? They run up to the photo of Kim Jong-il, and they're like, "Thank you, thank you, thank you."
Yeah.
And it's wild.
The man who provides, and I mean, that's what happens in dictatorships, is that kind of religious zeal. You have to pray to the dear leader, and that's why there's pictures and monuments and statues and things like that, which in certain religions is idolatry, right? And that's something that you can't do.
We don't mess with that.
You don't mess with that. But
Kyle, to your question, I know you didn't ask me. You never asked me if I believe in God, by the way.
Do you know what God is? Have you?
I've read about him in the Talmud. Yeah.
Your God is money.
I saw this really interesting video that Candace Owens did.
Oh my
God. It just really opened, I've started noticing a lot of things.
Your eyes.
Just put it that way.
Well, you can also do an entire episode, and I'm quite serious about this, on Jewish anti-Semites, which are people that I find.
Oh, don't even get us started. This is we've gone 23 minutes without talking about Mandy Patinkin. Please,
I'm not even talking about those people. I'm talking about like actual, like diehard, like Ron Unz is a great example of that. The guy who he was like a libertarian guy for a bit. And he became a multi-millionaire back in the first .com boom by selling his company. And he is the one that runs unz.org, which is just a clearinghouse for Holocaust denial literature. And like he had, like, one of his main bloggers is Andrew Anglin, who is the guy that runs the Daily Stormer, the neo-Nazi website. So like he's like actually
extra,
not like full, not like, no, I'm Students for Justice in Palestine or Jewish Voices for Peace.
You know what? I'll take those people because at least they're being sincere over Aaron Mate every day, who's been having a meltdown on Twitter because Israeli women were raped, and he doesn't like that we're talking about it.
This is the Ryan Grimm and what is the New York Times thing that they've just been pressuring the Times.
And by the way, like there are so many more stories coming out.
But I have to
now
tell
hostages
you,
are starting to speak, and like they're talking about sexual assault, male and female.
But can I say something about that? I just want to address this for a second, and I will not say anything about. I mean, the hostages should talk and say whatever they want. I cannot tell you how much I hate the fact that we're out there. No, but they were raped. No, they were sexually assaulted. You know what? Fuck you. You don't want to believe us? I don't care. Like, you are just you hate Jews, and that's it. Why are we trying to convince anybody?
I don't know if we're trying to convince. I think we want to raise awareness
and say, forget it. Don't even try to, you don't need to prove it. Why are we always dancing around trying to prove ourselves to everyone?
I don't think we're trying to prove ourselves. I think we're trying to tell the world this is happening.
No, we told the world. We told the world. They don't want to believe us. That's on them. I'm so.
But more and more stories are coming out.
Everyone again. And why? They're never going to believe us.
First of all, these hostages are the ones who are coming out with the stories. Like
I know.
And these are staggering. So one story came out last week. This is not like we're like taking a story from a year ago and be like, hey, everybody watch this video. Like,
but there's no one who said nothing happened. No one who denied the rapes and sexual assault is now going to be like, oh, now I believe it. Now I understand. If they want to tell their story,
I don't know that I agree with you. A lot of people don't know about this.
I just
a lot of people don't know what happened on October 7th.
This is what they do to us. Make the Jews prove it. Make the Jews dance around proving that whatever bad thing happened.
I get what you're saying.
It's sick.
But I don't see it as like, proving of like, look, there's we were talking about Simpsons earlier. One of my favorite Simpsons quotes of all time is when Santa's little helper was stolen or something, and Milhouse was trying to comfort Bart, and he said, remember when he ate my goldfish and you tried to tell me that I never even had a goldfish? Then why did I have the bowl, Bart? Why did I have the bowl?
Yeah.
And it's not like about like that of like we're trying to convince ourselves. It's more like, look at these evil monsters, what they did, what they're doing. By the way, even Israelis, and I've said this many times before on this podcast in one way or the other, like I grew up in the midst of like buses exploding, like terrorism was very, very common. And even people of my generation, even most Israelis, like we knew how evil they were, but we didn't really know. Like your brain manages to kind of suppress it. I'm not saying
the brain is also
throat clearing, not all Palestinians, blah, blah, blah. I truly believe it's not all Palestinians. But we don't want to believe that men are capable of doing this to other men and women. And we need to constantly be reminded that this is a thing in the world and everybody needs to wake the fuck up.
Well, I mean, it's I grew up in the time I was in New York City on September 11th, and it's not even a generational thing. It's people of my own generation who were here who don't.
You're much older than us.
I'm an older man at this point. I look like Mandy Patinkin. I don't think like him, but I look like him.
Mandy Patinkin had a good run. Now he looks like whatever.
I met Mandy Patinkin in high school, by the way, in a friend's house in Concord, Massachusetts.
Did you punch him in the face?
He was a little less offensive at the time.
Like this is for what you're gonna do like 40 years from now.
Yeah. This is pre-crime. Yeah. This is what's gonna happen. No, but I mean the forgetting is just a common thing. I mean, you were growing up during the Second Intifada, and you're seeing, pizza shops blown up and buses blown up and kids being killed on the streets and torn into pieces. I mean, just the most brutal way. It's not like, all of it's bad, but there was the particular brutality of the Second Intifada. But you can obviously find people in Israel of your generation who say, well, that was then, this is now. Yeah. And the same thing is, of course, true with September 11th. I think a lot of that people find reasons to forget. I mean, we're desperately trying to.
The brain protects itself too. Yeah. The brain wants to protect itself.
Even other political events like the Iraq War, no one had any idea at the time that would neutralize the memory of 9/11.
Right.
Because you think about the time and everyone only talks about the Iraq War. And you notice that when people talk about like, terrorism deaths are pretty low, they always start in 2002.
Right.
I mean, honestly, this is every time they do this because they want to exclude that because it's a little inconvenient that happened at that time. And, then it sort of disappeared. And it didn't disappear. I mean, we have conversations. We talk about this all the time on the show, which is the difference. I mean, David Baddiel, the British comedian who wrote the book Jews Don't Count, which I haven't read. I don't think it's out in the US.
It's excellent.
He's a genius and very, very funny. Yeah. And Jews Don't Count, just as a title, is useful because I
wonder if we should have him on.
You should try to get him on. He's very, very talented.
We follow each other on Twitter.
Just look at his IMDb. He's done some of my favorite comedies of all time.
And wrote a very famous football song.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, the one for the World Cup, I think in '94.
Oh, really?
I think that was the one. Yeah, but he's
and not a big Israel fan.
Yeah, I mean, as is common with secular Jews in Europe. I mean, it just you're stewing in it all the time. It's you kind of have to be remarkable to be an Israel fan if you are looking at the European media all the time. But the Jews Don't Count thing is absolutely true. And our friend Coleman, who's very good at this and kind of delineating why that is. That there's
annoyingly good.
Yeah, annoyingly good at so many things.
At everything.
And
also annoyingly a wonderful person.
Just a wonderful person. Just a really wonderful person.
We hate him. Yeah.
And I can't stand him. But this sense that Jews are white. I mean, if you looked at, we had the racial reckoning in 2020. And I remember having these conversations right after when you say, okay, how many unarmed men black men were killed by the police in X year? And this is after the Michael Brown stuff, which was completely justified, et cetera. But you're usually at 19, 18, 15, 20. Mm-hmm. And then when you break those numbers down, you get somebody who had, something that looked like a gun. The situation was right. The cop themselves who did the shooting was black. So you get even lower and lower and lower. And we're a nation of 340 million people, and we have this reckoning. And then you look at what happened since October 7th, the number of Jews who have been murdered specifically. This is not let's argue about George Floyd, or let's argue about the details of Michael Brown. This is just very straightforward, where the people say we're doing this because these people are Jews, killing people in front of coming out of a theater because they worked at the Israeli embassy, setting someone on fire, an old woman, and killing her in Colorado, beating a man until he hit his head and died at a protest in California. The numbers are not just those. There's more and more and more. I mean, setting Governor Shapiro's house on fire, all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't get any reaction.
None.
Not one. I mean, one gets you George Floyd, right? Because it's our country. We have a history of racism, all of which is true. But we also have a history of anti-Semitism, a very significant history of anti-Semitism. But another thing that it reminded me of the other day, I was reading a book about Dreyfus. I took a picture of a page.
Ben Dreyfus?
Yeah, Ben Dreyfus, about his relationship with his dad. Very complicated. And I took a picture of the page and I sent it to Noam. Because it reminded me of something he said about why he loved America so much. He said, my father, who is Israeli, came and we were living in the Upper West Side. And sure,
this is Noam now, not
Alfred
Dreyfus.
Yeah. No, but this is the relationship was, and he's saying, look, we loved it because, there's little indignities. There's the things we don't want to be in your club anyway, that kind of stuff, into your
country club.
Who cares? That kind of anti-Semitism. And there was a response this. He said, this is why my father loved America so much. And I saw this thing about in this book about Dreyfus, about an American Jewish newspaper, a very big one at the time. And their response to the conviction of Dreyfus was, this is terrible, but where we are, this could never happen. This is not how people treat us here. They don't treat us great, and we have some problems and blah, blah, blah. But this is not an American problem. This is a European problem. And even then, in 1898, you have this kind of reaction. But we have that history of anti-Semitism, but it doesn't mirror the blood libel. That's why it's so disturbing when people like Candace Owens actually are engaged in blood libel, not as a phrase, Oh, that's a blood lebet. No, like a literal blood lebet.
Literal.
They actually drained blood from Gentile children to make their matzahs.
They went full retard. We were talking about this on our last episode. They they could have towed the line and stayed like in. But wait, Michael, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
As the blonde Zionist, as they call you.
Not that blonde, but my daughter is.
By the way, I mean, it's a little side note, but the person who coined that phrase, there's a very famous who accused you of being both blonde and a Zionist.
Yeah.
There's a very famous video of her rolling her eyes at the sister of a hostage when, during something, and this is the same hostage that now came out with the sexual assault story. Yeah. So anyway,
before you ask your question, could I make a point about this thing, just to put a pin in it? As Michael was talking, I was thinking about, when I've never really articulated this before, but I want to say this right now. When I look at pictures from the Holocaust, right, of the Jews and the
which
Nazis,
she does every day.
And when I go to the museums I taught Holocaust history for 12 years in high school.
After she gets out of the mikveh.
Yeah. Listen, when I look at pictures, it's not the piles of bodies or even the people in the barracks. Like, those are not the pictures that actually cause a visceral reaction in my body. It's the pictures of the humiliation. It's the pictures of the men standing with their talis and their kippas and their beards, and the Nazis cutting off their side lock and their beards and laughing, right? It's the pictures of the women when they're making them run through the streets and they're in their bras and underwear, because those were my grandparents, right? And those were my that's my family, right? It's the humiliation part of it. I can handle, and maybe people won't relate to this, but like, I can almost handle the murder and the death and, even the mass murder in the camps. I was just in Auschwitz a year ago. Like, I can handle that. What I can't handle is the humiliation. And when I see the people humiliating us in this way, and forcing us to have to come out and prove ourselves again, that's the reaction I'm having to it. It's worse to me than the murder in a way. I can't handle the humiliation, and I'm tired. I'm tired.
Maybe that's why we hate the anti-Zionist Jews so much, because they took that humiliation, that indignity, and decided to join in instead of letting it affect them.
One recommendation for listeners, and it is, I'm reading it right now. I read it when it came out in English. Victor Klemperer, the philologist and German Jew who lived in Dresden and survived the war, the entire war in Dresden, the entire time. And so he kept a daily diary and is an amazing writer. And it's kind of a famous document for historians because it's very hard to get a sense of how ordinary Germans reacted. Mm-hmm. In the 1990s, there was a big debate about ordinary Germans with this guy named Daniel Goldhagen, who wrote a book that I think is actually not a very good book. You hate that
book, right?
I don't like it. I don't think it's an accurate book in a lot of ways. But it's just that he has this specificity about Germans, which I always quoted George Mossy, the great historian who was at Madison, University of Wisconsin Madison. He said, if you said that in 1920, this is what's going to happen in Europe, the reaction would be, God damn the French, because there is no uniqueness to the German anti-Semitism, is what Mossy's argument was. But in Klemperer's book, it's a book.
What's it called?
It's called I Will Bear Witness, and it's 2 volumes of it. But I'm almost done with the second volume. He's in Dresden.
Can you recommend any short books?
That would take the second volume, because it is. When it gets interesting, to Haileah's point, is when the Nazi regime mandates the yellow star. The mandating of the star was meant
555 pages just for the second one.
You get through it fast. Okay. It's
go on.
It's big type.
It's worse than the Holocaust.
There's actually an audio book of it too. I noticed the other day.
Wow.
But it's pretty interesting of how different people reacted to the star, which was, you had to wear it. If you didn't wear it and you got caught, you were a goner. And there's a point where, they're wishing the bombing campaign comes, even, because, it's not only going to precipitate the end of the war, is that you can take the star off. You can be like, everything was destroyed. We're being bombed by the Allies. But the interactions that he has with Germans, and some of them are as horrible as you'd expect. And I was just reading this last night as I went to bed. It's 1944 in November, and he's out on the street with the star on, and it's actually acting as a thing to attract people because they know the war's coming to an end, and saying, giving them ration coupons and saying, here, this is like, he survives because there are good people in the universe who are hiding him, who are helping him. And it's the terror too. It's all the people that are doing the exact opposite, but that's the opposite of the indignation that you would get from and the humiliation is people going out of their way to make themselves known as a good person who will do something for you when you're in this situation. So it tempers it in a way, but it is like when you see those images, particularly in Poland, and one is a reason there is about 3 or 4, I'd say 3 explicitly anti-Semitic films made during from 33 to 45. And one of them is a famous one called The Eternal Jew, Der ewige Jude. And the purpose of the movie is to compare Jews to rats, into an infestation, to dehumanize them to a point where you can cut their beards in the street, when you can kick and humiliate them. And it's like, no, they're just an infestation. They're not humans. They're not our neighbors, or anything like that. So yeah, that kind of stuff is when I see a lot of this modern stuff coming from influencers, and it's like taken to be, just for the lulz kind of stuff. But then it becomes more and more serious, where the language is mirroring the evil things in the world. There's always a Jew behind it. And it would be the thing that they would say in Germany, Juden ohne Maske, like taking Jews without the mask on. You would take the mask off and there'd be a Jew behind it. The problem was that Jews would try to blend in. They liked the fact that when you went to Poland, people had payas and they were just like, looked Jewish. If you could blend in, they would call them Mischlinge, like a half Jew or somebody that and that was, they said, was the real issue of people blending in. And like, guess what? Candace Owens says, the Bolsheviks, those guys were bad. They were Jews. This everything that you can find.
The slave trade.
So I have a game.
Sorry that we're good at everything.
You're very, that's anti-Semitism is essentially jealousy, has always been my argument.
I've heard that from a Muslim person, actually. Which I think
it's largely true. There's a big foundation of it. I have to find this thing that I looked the other day is everything that you can find, every story, the Minneapolis story, everything. It's the 2 degrees of Jewish separation. How long?
Always.
The Zionists, they didn't call out this version of the scam because the person was a Zionist. I saw it this morning from like a not a prominent account, but one that has a lot of followers and a lot of retweets.
Yeah, of course.
So it's the ubiquity of the conniving Jew is both an amazing achievement of the Jews. I congratulate you for being in the heads of everybody at all times.
Everyone's obsessed with us.
Most obsessions are bad obsessions. But the old joke that scratch a philo-Semite and you almost add an anti-Semite because they love Jews so much, is that all the things that they love about Jews are the things that the anti-Semites hate about Jews, which is kind of funny.
It makes me laugh when Candace Owens is like, the Jews ran the slave trade. Look it up. They were running the slave trade. I'm like, do you know what my family was doing during the slave trade? They were living in a shtetl, starving to death, being killed by people trying to pogrom them. They were trying to make gefilte fish in their pot. Like, what are you talking about?
You remember the joke
flattering in a way.
Remember the joke in Annie Hall when she's talking about Grammy Hall? And she's like, Grammy, you Grammy. My Grammy was too busy being raped by Cossacks.
Yes. Exactly.
But wait, I want to get back to my question.
Okay, good.
To Michael. So one of the things that I'm struggling with a lot is it's hard for me to rationalize why people need to care about this, right? So like, I know why I care about it. And I'm talking about Israel too. Like, I'm not saying not everybody needs to be like, go to, join APAC, but like, why should somebody care? And so let's like, your daughter's a little young, but let's say, she's in college or something. And she's like, Dad, why do I need to care about this? Why do I care what happened on October 7th? Why do I care that people are like blaming Jews for stuff? Like, it's everybody hates everyone, which is kind of true. I think they hate us a little more. But like, what case would you make to somebody who's like completely uninvolved, who's American, who's like, as an American, why should this bother you?
Caring about it, I can't advise people to care about things. To know about it, the reason I would say that you should know about it, and I think knowing about things like this makes you care about it, is because anti-Semitism in particular is kind of a historical skeleton key. It's the thing that opens a lot of boxes. It explains a lot of things you can always find it when it comes to the Soviet Union. I mean, that's been an interest of mine. Candace Owens is going to talk about the Jews and how horrible the Jews were, and they started the Bolshevik Revolution.
I'm on a Bolshevik kick right now, by the way.
I'll give you some good recommendations. It's one of my obsessions, and you would see it in the Doctor's Plot. Stalin, who she's also accused of being Jewish, which is hilarious because she has a friend who's a Georgian, and she literally said that. And I don't think she realizes that.
She has a friend from Georgia, maybe.
Yeah, from Cobb County is not the same as Tbilisi, but okay, close enough. But the Doctor's Plot is the great kind of anti-Semitic end of the Stalin era. The reason there are so many Jews in Sweden, there's not many at all actually, but in Scandinavia, is for two reasons. Is that the Danes were incredibly good at saving their Jews. And in the 1970s, there was the so-called anti-Zionist crusade in communist Poland that pushed all the Jews out. Why are there so many Russian Jews in Israel? Because of the Refusnik issue, because Jews were not happy in the Soviet Union, as most people weren't. But they had an extra layer of distrust and dislike because Jews are both accused of being the sinister mustache twisting people behind capitalism and communism. So you get it in both ways there.
Yeah.
9/11, right? There's
the dancing Israelis. Every day I regret not calling this podcast the dancing Israelis.
Every war you can think of
such a good name
is somehow blamed on the Jews. Anti-Semitism explains a lot for dumb people, and for smart people, it explains dumb people, right? I mean, there's a lot you can get when you understand the patterns of thinking that expose anti-Semites. I mean, I think that the problem that we have right now in American political culture is we're in a moment of extreme stupidity. I mean, it's just astonishing how dumb the arguments.
It's unbelievable. It's
and
unbelievable.
I think it's because of technology. Is that technology was supposed to make us smarter. It's made us dumber in so many ways, but it's also made people think they know things when they don't.
Yeah,
that was not the case before. It's like, well, I got to read books about this stuff. Oy, that sounds like a lot. It's 550 pages, says Yo.
Forget it.
Too much. But if you're on Instagram and you're on TikTok and you're seeing things in bite sizes on Twitter, the amount of things people believe are being explained to them that are really complex, that are really, there's a German historian named Götz Ali, Al-Y, who wrote a book about modern European anti-Semitism. And I read it about a month ago, and it starts with this whole thing about Romania. And it's the wildest, and I didn't know anything about this. And then I started doing this deep dive on this stuff in all of the codification of anti-Semitic laws in Romania and how that pushes populations around too. It explains a lot. I mean, understanding.
We're supposed to go back there.
What's that? You're supposed to Poland.
I was in Warsaw this year. I don't want to go back there. It sucks.
Oh, I love Warsaw. Why didn't you?
It was awful. And also, like, we went to see all the property that my grandfather used to own. Yeah. And it was a lot. We're like, oh, this could be nice. But
well, when I was at about a year ago, it was in January of last year when I was in Auschwitz, I spoke to a Polish Jew who said, and lived in Israel, and said if I could pick any place in Europe to live, it would be Poland now, which is a crazy thing for him to say, because they limit immigration, was basically what he was saying, because there's not a lot of Muslim immigration, which is why, let's be totally honest about it, you hear these blood-curdling cries against Jews in Berlin. I mean, the Germans were very much intellectually pacified after the Second World War because of denazification. And I mean, the Germans did very well. I give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, Germans are dope.
most Jews I ever knew who went to Germany were like found it annoying because they're like, "You're Jewish? Can I buy you a pie?" Yeah. It's like, can you relax? You don't need anything.
No, if I meet a German right now who's Christian, there's a better chance he likes me than like a Jew at Columbia.
Correct.
You know,
I think that's probably true.
No, I'm not even joking.
No, education
where
works.
Is everyone? Where is everyone? Where is the regular lawyer in Berlin or in Stockholm who's like looking around or in London and seeing like hundreds of thousands of people march and scream things against Jews? Like, what's going through? That's I ask all my European friends that, and I know you lived in Sweden. Like, do they care at all? Are they scared?
Well, they're very anti-Israel in most of these places. That's right. I think
we never did anything to them.
Well, the etymology of it is in Sweden, for instance, is a left-wing thing. It was the intellectual class was left-wing, and the left-wing movements that were anti-imperialist and far left were Palestinian groups. They weren't religious. I mean, the PFLP and even the PLO at the time, George Habash, all of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, Yasser Arafat wasn't religious.
No, they were not. They did not care. They trended that direction as the winds shifted in politics. I mean, everyone said Saddam Hussein was secular. I mean, he was. Baathism was a secular socialist movement. But as the winds changed there, what happened to the Iraqi flag, for instance? In the 90s, they added a Quranic verse onto the flag. I mean, so it was like, okay, everything is going towards Islamism, but it was much more compatible with Europe when the ideas coming from the kind of liberationist movements, which is, mixed with European guilt and things like that, is now it's changed because Muslims live in Europe. And that has been something that where you have a Tommy Robinson kind of guy who all the Nazis and the Nick Fuentes guys hate in America because he carries around an Israeli flag. Yeah. Why do they do that?
I'm like, where's the counterculture? Where's the punk rock version of Europe that's like, you know what? Jews are actually pretty cool, and Israel is fighting what we're fighting here.
Used to be America. Yeah. I think it'll spring back. I think that people don't have much of a memory of, I mean, when I was in college, every college professor or TA protested South Africa and the war in Nicaragua. No one has any memory of any of those things anymore. It's like that was just a fleeting thing. Will October 7th become that? I hope so. Yeah. I don't want memory on this.
But I think it lingers. I think something in it lingers that you think South Africa bad. I mean, well, you're probably right, but for, a lot of reasons.
Michael, forget Jews. What do we do about everything being stupid and everyone being dumb? And I'm reading. Are you a Peggy Noonan fan?
Yeah, I love her. She's the best.
I love her. So I'm reading a collection of her essays that came out. It's so she's writing about a show she went to, about Bob Fosse, and she's like, it was horrible. It was ugly and bad, and it was stupid. And she writes that there's like no sense of boundaries anymore. Everything is allowed, and great art and great music all came when you had to push against a boundary. It's like, how are we going to get back to a time when there's like really like smart? How do we get there? What do we do?
Really, really good question. I think that there's a kind of, and I haven't worked this out. I'm just thinking about this right now. So I just,
it's okay. We're all spitballing.
This is where I'm testing my ideas. It's kind of like an intellectual version of broken windows, right?
Yeah.
That we have to start with the stupid small stuff and defeat it. I mean, even in the cultural way of like, my daughter and no one in my life has any understanding of why I get so mad that people listen to YouTube videos on the subway without headphones.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see culture collapsing when I see things.
Yeah.
I see a breakdown of this kind of
100%
stuff.
agree.
And then my daughter goes out to Long Island and goes to Massachusetts where my mother is and family and stuff. And she's like, I love it. She loves it. It's so civilized. Yeah. And she's like, there's no crazy people on the streets, like wandering in circles, screaming, maybe we'll punch you, maybe we'll push you on the tracks. Like that kind of basic broken windows kind of stuff is a start. And then the kind of intellectual version of that is to constantly be pointing out that this stuff is embarrassing, stupid. And I think one of the great examples of that is Epstein. The Epstein stuff has been like such a eye opener for me, where I have a guy that I cannot stand as politics. and it's Michael Tracy. And he's been the only sensible person on this. And
he's very attractive, though. So.
He doesn't give a fuck about what anyone thinks about him. And like, there was a thing that Jeffrey Epstein wrote a letter to Larry Nassar before he died. I'm like, guys, anything you hear like this is too on the nose and clearly fake. It was on CNN. It was on. It's like, no, you guys are suspending any critical thinking for narrative constantly, and it's making you stupid. Like, you want this to be true. And that's why somebody faked this letter, which turned out to be postmarked like 4 days after he died from Virginia. It was literally a chyron on CNN. It's like, they don't look at the
Dear Larry, I also love young girls. And you know who else does? Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Love Jeffrey.
Why? It literally mentions Trump. It's like, guys, it's too on the nose. It mentions Trump in the thing. But I said this one time when, I keep on forgetting, I think it was a Jake Tapper, where I was skeptical of that Rolling Stone UVA rape story.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, well, why? Why do you? And it's like, because what we do as editors, what we do in journalism is we get a piece that someone submits and say, doesn't sound right.
Right.
I can't fact check it. I'm not going to go call 100 people involved. Like, I'm not going to touch it. Doesn't sound right. In that one, to me, there was a thing in it where some guy throws a bottle across a street and it smashes on her head. I was like, that's in the movies. It doesn't happen. It would hit your head and it would hurt. That's the first thing I saw. It's not true. No critical thinking skills are allowed anymore, because people want, and again, I constantly citing my friend Noam, who's like, he said, this stuff.
We should mention Noam Dworman, who has a great show live from the table, which we've never been invited on. I'm just saying.
Well, he loves you guys. I'm going to see him later. I'll mention.
Oh, tell him to bring us on.
He said the thing about the babies, which he said, don't go with this story too fast.
Right.
The brutality is enough. It's real, and it's just going to hurt us if we start acting. And I think he turned out to be right about that.
You're talking about the just to explain to people, like, at the beginning of the war, people said that there were like in the first day. But that pisses me off too, because like, why do we have to be right about everything in order to be accepted? I always quote Camille Foster, your co-host, and he said something at the beginning of George Floyd and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember it exactly, that he said it about race relations, but I think it has to do with everything. It was so insightful. He said, if the future of race relations in this country depend on zero negative police interactions or zero unarmed men being killed by police when there are 17,000 police departments in this country, then we're screwed. It's the same with Israel. People are like, oh, the beheaded babies are like, okay, that was
on the rape thing. It reminded me
there were only 2 beheaded babies. Sorry.
Yeah. And then there was a video of someone being beheaded, an adult.
A Thai worker. And a lot of there, I think like 17 Thai people that were murdered.
Yeah.
And a bunch kidnapped.
And I saw in this response, and I've kind of backed away from it because I just don't like the tone of the conversation, which I don't think is a productive debate, about, there was a Palestinian prisoner that was raped, and it's on video in prison. I don't know if this is true.
I know the story so well. Yeah.
Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Let's pretend for the sake of argument.
It's a terrible thing that happened, but he was not raped. But it shouldn't have happened, and those officers should be fired. And I think they were. And I think they're. Yeah. And that caused a whole other shitstorm in Israel because they were disciplined, and then people got upset.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that, to the point about George Floyd and about race relations, bad things happen in war always, and it doesn't make it okay. And it doesn't mean that I defend it. And in this case, I don't really know much about it. But the point being is that people who tried to say that the Iraq war was unjustified because of Abu Ghraib are on pretty shaky ground, right? Make the case that it was unjust for all the reasons that I think are at this point really obvious. But, and I supported at the time. But if you look back, there's a pretty clear case to be made that is intellectually honest. Individual moments of breakdown amongst people in high stress situations, in war situations, is not anything but a bullet in your gun, right? It's ammunition to make your point. It's like, I don't know the point that you're making, that the Israelis are particularly evil when it comes to prisoners, because you need a lot more than that. If you, I can tell you that I'm sure something similar to that happened at Rikers in the past 6 months. I mean, we had a thing of people dying at Rikers. Remember that? It was like there's a whole bunch of people dying all the time.
I'd rather be in Israeli police,
custody,
custody than at Rikers. But
and it doesn't say anything about how America polices crime, how we punish people, whether the sentences are too long, blah blah blah. There's kind of institutional things that it tells you that you have to keep an eye on people, et cetera. But making big points, huge points about where the world should go, whose side you should be on, tell me where you stand, based on individual actions. I mean, October 7th was a deliberately planned over years and successful mass murder. That tells you
an invasion.
A lot. It was an invasion too. Yeah. I mean, it's good that you point that out, because we often just presume that people know that or understand that, and they don't. It was an invasion, and the result is a counterattack is what happens. It's not surprising.
You mentioned Jeffrey Epstein before, and and just to tie it together with how people are really stupid, and then back to anti-Semitism. This actually happened. I have not told the story to anybody, but I was at the gym.
Is it about you and Jeffrey Epstein?
No. Yes.
I think you're a little old for him.
Here it goes. Okay. I was at the gym the day after the shooting in Bondi Beach in Australia, where 15 Jews were murdered at a Hanukkah party. And I was at the gym where
it wasn't religiously motivated, by the way.
I'm friendly with a lot of people at the gym, and it's a very interesting gym, whatever. I don't have to get into that. And I was saying goodbye to everybody as I was leaving, and somebody said, "Oh, I'm not going to be here for the rest of the year. So, Happy New Year." And I said, we had been talking about the murder in Australia because a few people were like, "Did you know anybody?" And I said, "Yes." Anyway, I said just to the group, I said, "Yes, hopefully we'll have a good year, a lot less killing of Jews." And one of the women standing there said, "Well, maybe we'll also have less trafficking of young girls and molesting."
Wow. Yeah.
And that was a direct comment.
Wow.
Okay. That was an anti-Semitic comment, because that was, literally
that's not even a borderline. That's just straight up.
It was straight up anti-Semitic. And I looked at
her,
and
who has time to traffic all these girls?
I know.
It's amazing that they think we do this.
I was looking at her, and I literally didn't know. I looked at her and I go, "Really?" And I just walked away. I couldn't even be bothered, even responding to that. But but I look at this person, and I know she sits on her phone all day scrolling and watching Candace Owens and all these other idiots, or even worse, you know what I mean? And in her mind, there are all these grand conspiracies that are going on. The level of stupidity that's going on, and that's being, I think it's being
an epidemic.
But social media is definitely lifting it up. But our own education system doesn't help, and our politicians don't help. We have no guardrails against it. I don't know how.
I think there's a mindset issue here. This is the most important thing about it. And the mindset issue is this: it is something that happened, I think, really in the 1960s and the 1970s, and it is the idea that knowledge is something that somebody isn't telling you. Not that it's now I know the truth. People think they're smart. People think they've come to be interested in politics because they're finding out the real truth, because the media lies to you. Your teachers lied to you. Lies My Teacher Told Me. Remember that book that sold a bazillion copies? Yeah. Oliver Stone, what you know about everything that happens is wrong.
Americans are so into that. Americans are so into conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory mindset was always been a thing, right? But it has become a common idea that knowledge is something somebody is keeping from you. And you have to get to the truth. And you find that because you are very good at picking out, everybody thinks they dress well, right? And I pick out the clothes, and I have a good eye for this stuff, and look at how great I look. And you're like, God, you look terrible. But I have a good eye for finding truth tellers.
Yeah.
And then, of course, to be cliche about this, and I hate when people use this phrase, but it is true, the algorithm starts feeding you people that are cover bands. That oh, you like the Beatles? You'll probably like, Herman's Hermits, right? It's they sound similar. It's Ian Carroll and these people who are half-wits.
Right.
So who's the Beatles here?
It would be Candace Owens. She's the John Paul, George, and Ringo all rolled into one, but black. Maybe she's Billy Preston. That's who she is. But it is a
Yoko.
Really amazing kind of instinct that people have to try to find the truth, because the truth is not out there. The truth is out there, but the implication in that X-Files thing is you have to look for it because they're going to hide it from you.
This all started with David Duchovny.
They are often Jews, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's also to I also think it's this idea that's maybe relatively new, but I think maybe it's not, of like it's about your truth, right? It's about
also a good point. Yes.
Yeah. There's no like reality, and to an extent, I can sympathize with some of that because there is just so much knowledge in the world. And, we had, what's his name on the show that wrote the book about speech and truth that I love so much?
Michael Shermer?
No, the gay Jewish guy.
Not narrowing it down for me.
No, again, the gay Jewish guy doesn't narrow.
Funniest part,
narrow it down so much. No, never mind. But he talks about how like the truth is like a process, right? Like you're constantly just like, and it compares it to scientific inquiry. Like you're constantly just trying to look for more knowledge and prove and disprove and whatnot. But at some point you need to stop and tell people you're being a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, just because like, I understand that you have a different way of viewing things, but what you're saying is just wrong. Like sometimes people talk about like, things. I know a lot about Israel and police, and you see things printed in the New York Times, not to mention, on social media, that you're like, are you all like idiots? Could you not have asked someone?
Knowing a lot about an issue is the most depressing thing in the world.
Totally.
Every time it comes to God, nobody knows anything. I mean, to know about an issue is in to have like a deep knowledge of something. I won't mention who this is, but I read a book recently, and I didn't want to read the book. I was doing it for a work thing, and I picked it up in the middle, and in 2 pages. I texted Matt and Camille about this. In 2 pages, I saw 2 quotes, and I said both of them are wrong. I know they're wrong. Why? I don't know everything that these 2 people that were being quoted said, but I know a lot about who they were and what they did, and doesn't sound like them.
Right.
And I checked both of them, and they were both wrong. In a book that was published by a mainstream big publishing house. And it's like the problem is if you know things, you spot them, but you should know things to write them.
That's right.
That was what you'd presume, is that knowing things is like, yeah, that doesn't sound right to me. But when you have a worldview, that means that the entire worldview, Tucker Carlson's a great example of this, that everyone's lying to you. His version of that is the deep state. So why is he obsessed with the Kennedy assassination?
Right.
That's a long time ago. What is it? But because he can tie Israel to it, which is a new thing, by the way.
I know.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books about the Kennedy assassination, all of which are wrong. Most of which have like a couple of nuggets of interesting information in them. Not a single one of them talks about Israel. Maybe.
Yeah, because we hid that shit.
We hid it. But all of a sudden now it's like, okay, so what does that tell you?
Exactly.
That tells you that someone's using history to work out their current political ideology and how it, pertains to the world. They're so bad. Why are people asking at TPUSA events about the USS Liberty? Why?
It's insane.
It's insane. Why are they asking about who was the good guy and the bad guy in World War II? Because we have one thing in America's history that we all agree on, where we were the good guys, and we have to upend that too. Yeah. So it requires the abuse of history, and it sits really well with people who don't know anything about it. If they don't know anything about it,
right?
They know that someone wrote a book about it. So therefore, if a book is out, this is how dumb people are. Yeah. Pat Buchanan wrote a book, so there's got to be some information there, and it actually aligns with how I think about these people in the world. So therefore, we have a polluted intellectual environment full of people that are this accelerant is the stupid people on the internet who are putting out tiny, tiny bits of information. And the Epstein story I come back to, just because no one even understands that there's no evidence of him trafficking women to anyone but himself.
Right.
That's
he did have an IDF shirt in his closet, which we all know when you join the Mossad, they give you a gift bag.
I have one
complimentary.
The funniest part. The funniest part about Jewish conspiracies is the idea that Jews can even keep secrets. Like my parents told me
or collaborate.
Before my first date with my husband, which was my first date ever, I had never gone on a date before. My parents told me 2 things that I shouldn't mention. Okay. They were like, you don't need to talk about these 2 things. No, they were like private things about me, whatever. They were like, you don't need to mention it on the first date. I literally told my husband within the first 45 minutes about those 2 things. I don't know.
They got married, so they were wrong.
No, I don't want to say what they were. But the point is, I mean, we're such gossipers. We talk, we schmooze. Everyone knows everything. I know about my 4th cousin's neighbor's grandson's birthday party that the mother didn't show. You know, this idea that there's some conspiracy is so stupid. It's so
can they just move on to someone else? Like when has historically, Michael, have they ever moved on to somebody else historically?
No.
And the reason is one of math. It is math only. It is a conspiracy based that is entirely on math. There are too few of you to be so powerful.
Right.
That is everything. Why are all the doctors
were so great
in Nazi Germany? The first thing that they were obsessed with were department stores. The Kaufhaus were owned by like it was a Jewish like majority in Berlin, and it was like if there's so few of these people, how do they own all this? How are they the doctors? How are they so successful? And it's like, well, the answer of it is so boring, is that it's discrimination.
But also it's communities. Like I remember once, and I think it has to do with that's why I think conspiracy theorists are like is a low intelligence cause, because it means you don't really understand the world. And like a lot of most NYPD traffic agents are Bangladeshi.
Yes.
Right. So I remember asking, we were doing a recruitment campaign for them. And I remember asking the head of the recruitment, like, what, like, why are they Bangladeshi? Is there like a special visa? Or do they get like, a special training or something like that? And they looked at me, he's like, no, one guy gets a job and he says it's a great job and he tells his cousin and then the cousin applies for the job. And like, that's how things work a lot of times. Like there's no like guiding hand.
Yes. Indians owning franchises of Red Roof Inn was a big one in America, and Dunkin' Donuts.
Cambodians and donuts.
Yeah. It's like, there's no conspiracy with this stuff, is that groups tend to, and that was always the Black anti-Semitism, which is always really interesting here in New York City. But in LA, something that no one ever points out was that around the time of the LA riots, most of the anger in the Black community that was not was about white people, because it was too big of a group, it was too diffuse, was Koreans.
Oh yeah.
Really hated Koreans. Yeah. And,
they're Ice like Cube, the Jews of Asians.
Yes. And Ice Cube, who is a rapper and an anti-Semite, had a song on his album called Black Korea about burning down Korean stores.
That's normal.
Because there was a girl, this is what precipitates the LA riots, and people forget about this too. There was a Black girl who was putting a thing of juice into her backpack, and it looked like she was buying it and she was putting it before him. And the woman behind the counter was an old Korean woman, shot her and killed her. Mm-hmm. And this was an enormous story that was overtaken by the Rodney King stuff. But the Koreatown was like burned to the ground, and we know the rooftop Koreans and all this stuff. Because there was a study that I think it was AEI, I read it in the AEI magazine back at the time, of the number of times a dollar went through a Korean hand before it left the community was astonishing.
Right.
And like economists were like, this is really fascinating, is that you spend on Korean businesses, you help out fellow Koreans who have just come from Korea. It's a very, very serious community. And Jews as a community is something that people find threatening when success happens.
Yeah.
Poor Jews Nazism is an interesting thing, because it's a racial, like when you have a racial idea of it, you have to kill all the Jews, even when they're poor and living in the shtetl. Whereas modern anti-Semitism in the United States there's no poor Jews are words that don't go together. Right. It's why that joke at Dave Attell worked.
Exactly.
It didn't make any sense otherwise. They were like, what? Showing that Jews can be poor. It's
people
a funny joke.
But people don't realize how much community takes care of each other. When you forget about the government and you say, like, I'm responsible to take care of the people in my community, it's incredible what happens. We have a thing going on now in LA, actually, because kosher food prices have been out of control for years. Like, it is so expensive to buy kosher food here, more than in New York, more than in other places. And because there's only a few kosher stores and they jack up the prices and everything, whatever. And so one rich guy in the community, an Orthodox guy, a billionaire, decided, you know what, we're done. Like, we're not going to play this game anymore. And he started this, he calls it a warehouse, whatever outlet. And you can now shop through his website. He pays cost price. He negotiates directly with the distributors, and he's selling, just to give you an example, a pound of chicken that was costing $4 in the store, he's selling for $1.29. And people, and he's upending the whole landscape of kosher food in LA. And I didn't need the government to get involved. We didn't need we didn't need a Congress to tell us what to do. It was just a guy in the community who said, we have to help our own people here.
And there's a tradition involved in it too, a religious mandate / tradition,
right,
where it dictates that everybody is forced into this situation.
That's right.
So who are the people that are going to come together? Not people who are Irish Catholics. They're not paying attention to this. Right. Jews will, and then they will create this warehouse thing that'll be very successful.
That's right.
And all of that breeds ultimate resentment, because you make the thing that's successful, it's a warehouse for kosher stuff, that's not going to prevent you from then becoming somebody who invests in real estate,
right,
and becomes good at real estate. It's just very basic economics that makes dumb people very jealous. Why do they have all the power in Hollywood? That which has been the classic one. And the explanations for that are so simple that I cannot believe that people even kind of, roll that around in their head.
Yeah.
And also, it's really interesting too, when you hear, and I was thinking this the other day, is that people talking about like, oh, Israel, you're Israel first. Why do you care about this foreign country, you foreign person? Are you not America first? And it's like, okay, so why are you talking about Christians being killed in Nigeria?
Yeah.
Why are you talking about Christians in Israel? Why do you have a global outlook on your religion?
Right.
It's because everybody does, because it's not an uncommon thing. Why did Muslims come from all over the world to fight in Afghanistan in the Mujahideen in the 80s? Why did they do the same thing in the Balkans in the 90s? Why do the same thing in the Middle East, whether it's in Iraq or in Syria for ISIS and various Al-Qaeda offshoots in the 2010s? I mean, why is it that when Jews have a global outlook on their own people who have suffered in proportionally worse than any other group throughout history, wouldn't have that? It's just a bizarre thing.
And none of it is at the expense of Americans. And one of the biggest like stupidity points that people talk about, aid to Israel, and I love it when people are saying, oh, this costs so and so in America, but meanwhile we're giving aid to Israel. And I'm like, that more than 80% of that goes back into the American economy, like by design. It's meant to buy.
It's by law, It's by law. It has to be
so
by American.
It's just
to change.
It's also like you see this kid who did this story that everyone is up in arms about and celebrating him. And he might be the stupidest person, I think, on the internet, is the kid who did the video in Minneapolis.
Oh, really?
You have to watch.
I haven't watched it.
There is an interview with him about a video he did in Ukraine.
Oh, no.
And it is one of the most painful. It's just a guy who's British who lives in Ukraine interviewing him. And the kid sounds like he's having like some kind of seizure during it, and he can't speak English as far as I can tell.
Oh,
and the video was, and this is very similar to the Israel point in aid, he's like pulling all these like sarcastic faces as he's looking at nice cars in Kyiv. And he's like, yeah, we're supporting these guys. And it's like,
oh my God,
are you kidding me? Yes, there are people that have cars in Ukraine. Very modern country. It's a very nice country if you've ever been there. But this idea is the simple-minded idea of like, I'm going to go to Ukraine, take pictures and videos of cars, and people will, oh my God, there's a Prada store or something.
Yeah.
Why are we giving them weapons? It's like,
but they're doing the same thing to Somalis too. And I joke about the Somalia, the Minneapolis thing and how, it's taken a lot of heat on us, but I'm also not comfortable with a lot of the things that people are saying about it. They're like, okay, they all need to go, and they're getting, they're doing this money they're getting this money while we're sitting here on food stamps, whatever. Like, it's not connected. Corruption always exists. All these people should be punished. All the people who turned a blind eye should be punished.
The government.
This is incredibly fucked up, but
it's not a
let's
zero-sum
cool it
thing.
with the all Somalis thing.
This idea that government money is a zero-sum thing. I mean, the PPP program was one of the greatest boondoggles of all time. I mean, everyone who ever like sold something on eBay had a company in distress and got like $10 million. I mean, we haven't done the actuarial work on the number of people who were dead that were like getting money. Like this stuff happens. And the idea that if it happens, you are not getting something is belied by the growth of government and the amount of money that the government spends on programs. It's, yes, inflationary and we print more money, et cetera. But this sense that without them, we would all be in a land of milk and honey is a classic stupid trope.
We're just setting the ground now for when they go after the yeshivas. So we can replay this.
I want to take a turn here. I want to take a sharp turn because you're going to have to go soon and I want to get this in. So it's going to be, today's the last day of 2025.
Yes,
and like I told you before, I have a very busy day because I didn't do any of my goals and I have only a few hours left to do all my goals. Are you a new notebook type of person that writes out goals for 2026? And if you are, what are your goals? Are you changing your personality in the new year?
Well, no, that's changed considerably over the past 10 years. My daughter was very impressed with me last night. We went to a rink in Queens that I booked for us to go skating. And it turned out that they mislabeled something on the website. It took like 30 minutes to drive there, 35 minutes to drive there. And I was so excited to put the skates on and go out. And the woman looked at me and was like, yeah, sorry. I know why you're here. And I said, well, if this happens all the time, maybe you should clarify on the website. God. And my daughter's looking at me and like saying, don't do the thing.
Don't lose
and
it.
I was like, okay, all right, well, I'll come back. And I took my skates and then we went and had a nice dinner. And she's like, I was like, you expected me to lose my fucking mind, didn't you? And she said, of course. And I'm like, I'm a different person.
Wow.
I'm getting older, I'm getting better.
Evolved.
It's not the new year. I'm just a calmer person.
Yeah.
But no, my goal in the new year, I don't write it down. But my goal in the new year is to write more.
Yeah.
Speaking of writing down, is that I stopped writing because writing is painful.
It is
exhausting, and I care about what I write about.
Stupid. Yeah.
And I check, I press send on something or I submit something and I'm like, oh my God, maybe I made a mistake, which is not kind of the thing that I see a lot on the internet these days.
Yes.
Maybe I should care less about that. But
maybe I should have left that part about the Talmud out.
Yeah, exactly. I got this great book that was self-published, but seems accurate. But yeah, I want to write more. And
how do you do it when you do it? Like, how do you eventually, like, is it a deadline? Is it?
I have to have deadlines. If I don't,
yeah, me too. Kyla and I talk about this a lot. Sitting
down at a computer is the hardest part.
Yeah.
And the internet is your enemy.
Yeah.
And because you can always keep researching and then you're like, oh, time to go to bed. And so I've done one thing in the past week, which is take my daughter's old iPad and get a keyboard for it. So it's much harder to be distracted on an iPad.
Yeah.
And then I go places. Like, it used to be great. I used to write on planes because there's no internet.
I know.
Now you can't even do that.
Everywhere. Yeah.
I know.
If you have no internet connection and a laptop or even a laptop, I can get distracted by other things, like organizing photos. I can do anything to avoid work.
Do you have a brick?
I know.
There's like this. I've bought it. I've used it twice, maybe. It's like this little. It's the size of like an AirPod case. And you just you tell it what to block, and you tap your phone on it.
Yeah.
So I'll do it sometimes when I go up to where in my building's common space if I need to write. And I'll disable social media and I'll disable games because I'm a child and I get like distracted by online games.
Aside from distraction, though, my biggest problem with writing, and I don't know why I can't get past this, is every time I sit down to write, because I think I have a good idea and I want to write something, I think to myself, no one cares what you think. You are not why do you think anyone is going to care about what you're saying about
and
this
then you
topic?
look at the internet.
I know.
Yeah. But then you write something and people are
me,
like, this is great. Thank you for writing it.
No, but that's what makes me, when I see people putting out absolute bullshit day in and day out, I'm like, why am I any different than these people? And
you should feel
I'm
better.
really
You should be like, look at all these
that.
idiots.
I don't know.
Well, you are. The difference is that you spend time, whether you're in the car or whether you're, lying in bed or in front of your computer, you spend your time thinking about things. Most people don't.
Right, I guess.
Most people do not.
All that pre-writing.
That's
yeah. It's like coming to that idea where I want to write this down is something that 1% of the population ever does.
That's true.
It's like, whether there are people that, how many times have you seen a movie or some young, I always do this, I look at IMDb and it's like some young writer and it's like, you thought that was an interesting idea that 1,000 people have made this movie before and yet it got made.
Yeah.
So it's astonishing the number of people who do think in that 1%, probably about 75% of those people are having boring thoughts that they don't. Self-hatred is the best thing a writer can have.
Yeah.
The problem is people don't hate themselves enough.
No.
They think they have interesting ideas. That is very, very positive. Honestly, it's a very healthy thing because it disaggregates and filters bad ideas. Whereas I know so many like young people I see, and they think that every thought they have is a nugget of gold. And it's like, guys, you need to dislike yourself more and stop thinking you're great.
It's true.
Because you're not. And like self-hatred can be really healthy, can get obviously to a point where it's very unhealthy. But a general skepticism of your own thoughts is the basic building block to being a writer.
You're so right. Do you want to write a book?
I have the opposite problem. I'm like, I wrote this thing and this is like amazing and it's going to break the internet and like 3 people share it. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's also, I had an idea this year of that when I noticed, because there's so much out there, is that number of views or listens does not mean a show was bad.
Right.
It means it didn't get to the people that you wanted it to get to.
Yeah.
That is like in the past, if you had a television show and it was on after Seinfeld and it did 1/10 of the numbers, your show sucks.
Yeah.
Period. Full stop. You have the audience, they're there and you couldn't grab them. Now, getting the audience to be there is the hardest part.
Right.
And once you get them there, you'll know if it's good or not. But there's often times that you just can't reach people because of the information smog that envelops us all the time. And it's like, that is the hard thing where people are always like, how do I game the algorithm? What should the title be? It's not because you think it's bad. You think it's good. And if I get the title that they click, then they'll stay. If they just come into my store, they'll start buying things. But how do I get them there when I'm not on the main street and I'm not near the subway line or something?
I think Fifth Column is going through a little bit of your podcast is like, it's interesting because I think you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like you have gone to video and trying to do the YouTube thing and grow, but then like your core base of fans who've loved you for years are like upset and like criticizing. And it's like, and it's a really hard space for content creators to figure out like how to grow, keep your audience happy, your loyal audience, but also get more eyeballs and ears on your work and, so that you can like earn a living do this. It's hard.
Been really interesting. And I like all the feedback and criticism. I make sure that Matt reads it and tells me so I don't have to get upset by it.
I know.
But
he filters it. He's like the Epstein files. It's like blacked out.
It's like he gives me a PDF and it's like 10 black pages.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting thing that we've been going through is because for a couple of reasons. Number one is it's flattering. The criticism has been flattering.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the criticism
What's it been?
Has been, we want more shows with the 3 of you.
Right.
I love. I think that's the greatest thing you can hear. And for us, it has been an experimental time. And we've decided that we're going to do one show a week with a guest and one without.
Oh, that's good.
And my idea has been to increase to 3 shows a week, which is hard because Camille doesn't live here. So, which is a total pain. But we would do a show for the masses, for everybody who doesn't subscribe, and then an episode with a guest. But we have just had this kind of bountiful harvest of great guests, of interesting people that are really outside where we've been.
Yeah.
In the sense that there was a moment where you have to step back and say, we talked about Coleman. I'll just use him as an example.
Right.
One of my favorite people, one of the smartest guys on earth. And, I want his take on almost everything. But Coleman has a show in the Free Press. We don't want to just be talking to our friends.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Jesse and Jesse and Katie, and then there's Coleman, and then there's all the same people. Right. We wanted to get out of that, which can be a trap. Yeah. It's kind of hard to get out of. And we want to have somebody on like Jeffrey Toobin or something, right. or Abby Phillips, or people that are just really outside of our world. And we had this guy. One of my favorite episodes recently was this Marxist guy, Brace Belden.
Oh, that was interesting.
He's funny and weird and interesting, and he likes us and has a lot of respect for the ideas. He doesn't think we're crazy. And he's probably, if Israel came up, I'd probably put my head through a glass window. But I enjoy having those conversations because when you look out there, I want less Piers Morgan and more interesting people who disagree having interesting conversations. But it's also like what made the show was the three of us and our friendship and are talking about things that are way beyond politics too.
It always comes down to that. It always comes down to chemistry. And I think you were there when we were together that night, a few people with podcasts, and we're talking about like growth and stuff. And
yes.
I think we're all, like, a lot of us agreed, like the reason I will always listen to Fifth Column and I'll always listen to Jesse and Katie on Blocked and Reported. And I'm proud to say the reason people listen to us, even though it's slightly less people, is people just like, they like to hear you talk to each other because they feel like they're in a room with their friends.
Yeah.
But like, I actually have a criticism.
Oh
yeah. Go ahead. I love it.
The table needs things on it. It's a little bare.
Yeah, it's
a little weird. Like put a plant or like some drinks or something. Like it.
Well, the drinks are there.
Okay.
But sometimes we record during the day, which gets a little aggressive. We start drinking during the day, so we have to be.
I absolutely
like tell Jason to buy a plant or something, or like some books. I don't know. I need something visual.
I absolutely loved the Sebastian Junger episode because I love him. I'm his biggest fan. I forced my students to buy his book Tribe. I think it's one of the most important books.
Great.
You had that conversation was so good and interesting, and the way you guys shared about your own lives and your relationships, like that was a really, really, really good episode.
I liked Kevin O'Leary.
Less that religious guy. Whatever that guy's name was.
Well, we can talk about
I enjoyed him. I didn't like everything he said, obviously, but I thought I enjoyed listening to the episode. But it's like, it's hit or miss. Like it's like when you grow and you change direction, it's a really hard situation to be in because you're going to get feedback that's positive and negative, and you're going to have to decide what to listen to.
I think that we didn't change direction so much as we added a direction. Right. And what has happened was that just because of like scheduling stuff, it was that we were doing a lot of episodes with guests in a row. And now we realize that we don't want to do that.
Are you reaching new people?
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
great.
we're at the highest numbers I think we've ever been at the moment, because we're different people. I mean, still most people are listening to us on audio only. But the YouTube stuff grows. But the interesting thing about it is a good example of that one with John Fugelsang, the kind of lefty religious guy, is that I didn't have a lot to add to that conversation. And I said it a million times during the conversation. Like, I don't, it's just not my bag, but I'm interested to be here. And, I asked him a few questions. Like when he said, I don't think we should have open borders. And I said, well, doesn't that make you a bad
that was good.
And he said, no, I've never thought of that.
Yeah, like, that was really good.
But at the end of that show, he had a relationship with George Harrison from the Beatles.
Oh.
And so he talked about that, and it was pretty interesting. And I noticed this morning that the clip of it on YouTube had like good numbers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, we couldn't do that before. Yeah. Like if you had an episode in which there was one bit that you liked and it was at the end, you started 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the episode. I don't like this. I'm going to skip it.
Right.
In this way, that we can take a portion of it and get it out there. And so it still serves us and the audience by having this clip that is like, you don't have to listen to the whole episode, but here's a good clip where we're actually not talking about politics because you don't like the guy's politics. And here's us talking about the Beatles. And
you reach all these Beatles fans who then some of them might be like, I'm going to start listening to the show.
I mean, Kevin O'Leary is a good example of this, that I asked him a question, and I asked him a very simple question. I said, what's the worst part about being rich? I know what's great about being rich. So that's easy. And he had this really interesting answer about how people in your family are always asking for money, and how do you handle it, which was like totally fascinating. And the last time I looked, the clip on Instagram had 1.7 million views.
Wow. Did you this is a like a
that brings people.
Did he co-share it? Did it post from his account?
So he shared, like, he is a totally fascinating guy.
By the way, he was amazing in Marty Supreme.
So I haven't seen it.
I was so impressed by him. It's good. It's like not the greatest movie I've ever seen, but I thought it was great.
I love the Safdies. I think they're really talented. So I'm excited to see it. But
he was phenomenal. You'll love him in it.
He came in and like they recorded it. He put like his own mic on our mic, a little lav mic on the stand. And he said, but he's like always Mr. Businessman. He's like, you got to do this and got for reach and stuff. And then you tell me when it goes up, and then, we'll share it, and then you can share it and blah, blah, blah. And he did that. And does it work for every clip? Right. Well, he's got millions of followers. You'd imagine it would translate. It doesn't.
Right.
So a couple clips will have 10,000 views, 5,000 views, 20,000 views. And then this one has 1.6 or 7 million views. And the people that come to the show, if 10 of them come and say, I'm the happiest person in the world.
Yeah.
If 20
who's your dream guest or somebody that you haven't landed yet?
Last time he said Bob Dylan. I'll answer for you.
Okay.
Well, Dylan is always the dream guest, but he doesn't talk to anyone. So that's
but like somebody
never going to happen. The dream guest. Oh my God.
Or somebody that you've tried.
While you're thinking, I do want to plug one thing about Fifth Column.
Let's help them out. Let's get them some listeners.
I'm serious. No, listen, we only exist because of you guys. And I want to plug one thing. I have found, and this is partly, I think, because of my personality and my background, but the community that has been built around the Fifth Column. And I will take a bit of responsibility for certain little parts of it, just inviting people.
You send her money for all the Shabbat dinners she's hosted for your listeners?
No. But I want to really encourage people, because I think you'll have a lot of people listening to this who are Fifth Column fans. Like, don't be shy. Reach out. There are people who live near you who are Fifth Column fans. Post it in the chat. Go out for a beer, get a drink, go out for dinner. You will find some of the best friends that you will have in this community.
Yeah,
I mean, I was just in Boston. I live in California. I was just in Boston a few weeks ago. I had dinner with 8 people who are Fifth Column fans who've become Ask a Jew friends.
When were you in Boston? What time?
I was there December. We did it like December 10th or something a few weeks ago.
I might have been there.
Well,
maybe it was a week later, but
no, I would have, obviously. But we had it was like an incredible dinner of like different types of people. They came from all over. We had a great time. 2 weeks ago, we had a Shabbat dinner here in Long Beach. I had 35 people over who are all really big fans of Fifth Column, and the most interesting, diverse group of people, and so I want to encourage everybody to just like reach out and meet up. Don't be shy. Like, it's
the
really
great thing about it. I absolutely love to hear that. I mean, I was in Boston. I was going to a Bruins game, and on the way in, somebody just said, "Hey, I love the show."
Oh, really? That's so nice.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
But in just weird places. I mean, you get that in places you'd expect.
Kyle gets that at like the mikveh all the time.
Oh my
God. At the discount chicken store. Thank you for promoting us. But no, the great thing about it is that it is something that is completely self-built, and it's not, we have nothing to do with it. It just happened over time. And we didn't say, hey, go to this subreddit, go to, this, whatever. It just created itself on its own.
It's amazing.
And it's the best thing in my life, for sure. I mean, by a lot. I mean, I can live my life the way I want to live my life, not extravagantly in any way.
Right.
But the fact that I can do this as a job is something that I'm annoying to the other 2 guys about, to say like, if there's ever a time, say, maybe we'll not do it tonight because so-and-so is tired and whatever. I'm like, no, we get people pay us for this. And it's the greatest gift that we've ever had. And like, it's not something, and I always say it's like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come mantra through that movie. No, if you build it, mostly they don't come. But we created something, and it's almost by accident that the community, I mean, it is by accident, the community was built around it. And I love the connection to all the people in the community. And I try, I mean, I say this, I read every email. I don't read comments because people become a little more introspective and they like, delete things and they add things. And Matt once told me a long time ago, before the fifth call, that when someone sends you a hateful email, respond, and they'll always apologize. Don't respond asking for an apology. People are like, you're a fucking loser and blah, blah, blah. And you'll respond by saying, hey, thanks for the email. Like, I get where you're coming from, but I disagree, blah, blah. And then they'll write back every single time and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was just in a really bad mood. I'm so
thank you for responding.
Thank you for responding. And we try to interact as much as we can. I mean, but we've grown in a way that I'm very happy about. But it's still remained a community. It's not. It's not
been a lifeline.
I want to tell you,
especially since October 7th, it's been such a lifeline. This community, and
I want to give one example. There's a woman, and Leslie. She grew up with Matt. Leslie is a big character. Leslie lives.
I'm gonna plant a tree in Israel for Leslie.
Leslie lives 4 miles from me. Okay, I live in Long Beach. She lives in Lakewood. Right? We live 4 miles away. There is no way in hell Leslie and I would have ever crossed paths if not for the fifth column. I am a very Orthodox Hasidic Jew. Leslie is not Jewish and lives in a different area. We would never have, we have nothing in common, and yet she has become such a dear friend, and to a degree that she came to, we had a Hanukkah menorah lighting the same day as the Bondi shooting. And I look in the crowd, Leslie's there. And she says, I just felt like I needed to show up for you today, to be here, to show my support after what happened. Like, what? That's because of you guys. Do you understand? Like, you built, I mean, it's because Leslie's a really good person, but
has she knocked on your door at Shabbat, during Shabbat, to tell you something?
No. She knocked on my door to tell me that America bombed Iran because it happened on Shabbat. And she said, I know that you're not going to have your phone, and I want you to know that America bombed Iran. She came the day the 4 hostages were found, the day on Noah Argamani. And she, it was on Shabbat. Leslie knocked. I'm like, why is Leslie here? I opened the door. She's like, I just want to tell you, I know you don't have your phone. They just rescued 4 hostages. That relationship, and I'm proud of it. This is a deep relationship. She'll be my friend forever, and that's because of something that you guys did without even meaning to. She's
spreading it to her family too, and she's talked to her kids about anti-Semitic, because her kids are very anti-Semitic.
No, they're not.
No, I know they're not. They're wonderful.
Because of her.
I know she
and she's just one example. I can give you 20 examples of people, and I want you to know that. Like, you have to really know that, because I know it's probably really hard, and you put a lot of effort into it. And I know you have a lot of your own self-hatred and doubt. And so in those moments,
when people do things for you because they like the show, I mean, a fun example, I'd never mentioned this one, but I was going uptown. I was on the Upper East Side, and I was on the subway, and I was on like the 4 train or whatever. And I was going to a book party for Nellie Bowles for her book when it came out last year. And then it was at my friend's house, and there's a woman sitting across from me in the subway, like directly across from me. We got off the same stop, and she tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, in a hilarious Australian accent, said, hey, I'm a fan of the show. And I just, want to tell you that I'm a big blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, thanks so much. You're going, I assume you're going, because you just never assume. Like, it's like when you see something, I used to do stuff for Vice. I'd do a piece that would get like 2 million views. And I never realized that those were people.
Yeah.
So people were like, hey, I saw that. And I'm like, you did?
Yeah.
And I just, like, people saw it. I'm like, oh, I thought those were fake, the bots or something. So she's like, what are you talking about? Party. I said, Nellie Bowles. She's like, oh yeah, no, I read the Free Press and stuff. Well, come with me. Oh. And she's like, well, I got to go home and change. I look like,
probably super
grubby.
Hot if I know you.
And she was, we didn't talk about it off thing.
Yeah.
No, she tapped me on the shoulder. If it was, I tapped her on the shoulder. That but she's a young, attractive woman. And so she came to the party and was like talking to people and everything. Turns out she's an architect. And I said, architects are expensive. I don't know anything. And I have a house, and can you help me with it? This was about a year and a half ago. I was texting with her a couple of days ago. A woman in Queens who shows up at all these fifth things. I think she's Pakistani, Her father's a Pakistani immigrant. owned like a door company. And I said, oh, I need a sliding door for this. And he's like, oh, we do stuff for like, vinyl siding houses in Queens, but let me look into it for you. She did all this research, sent me all this stuff. I'm in communication with her about it. It's amazing.
You're like the Somalis of the fifth column.
You're
just like getting people to do free things for you.
Yeah. Well, everyone I say, both of these people, we've talked about prices. I've never asked for anything for free. I don't do that. But no, it's just the community is so
it's nice.
Large and great that if you ever say, does anyone know about X or Y? Just 1,000 emails will come in. And
because people want to help.
Elle's parents were in LA. So we took our parents out to dinner. It was like a summit. Like all of our parents meeting for the first time. It was really sweet. It was really cute. As we walked into the restaurant, and it couldn't have worked out more perfectly. This woman came running over and she's like, oh my God, ask a Jew. You're both here, Yael and Chayla. And all our parents were sitting there and saw that interaction. And my father was like, wait, you don't know that lady? I'm like, no, I didn't know that lady. He was like, oh, I thought you knew. I'm like, no, she's a listener. She likes the show. She recognized us. Yeah. And all our parents always got that moment of pride.
When you have it in front of the parent or the kid, is that when my daughter was like 4 or 5 years old, I was in Brooklyn and a cop came over to me and she like gripped my hand tight. She was like, what the hell? And he came over and he's like, hey, big fan of the show and blah, blah, blah. And she still talks about that all the time. Yeah. That like, because she doesn't know. She's like, what, you do a thing? I don't know. She goes to a fancy school now. All of her friends' parents are like in Hollywood. Yeah. And she's like, what do you do? So these tiny things help my reputation. Very small reputation enhancements. So if you see me and I'm with my daughter, please come over and say the best thing. Just lie.
Best thing.
Because it really helps me.
We have a friend. We have a friend who saw Camille the other day and he didn't go up to him because he's like, oh, he was with his family and I didn't want to be creepy and interrupt. I was like, I think he would have loved that. If you just like, hey, I love the show.
We always enjoy. I mean, it's not even, it's just the idea that you're not doing something for yourself. Like bands don't need this because they play live shows to 20,000 people or 5,000 people or 500 people. When we do a live show, it's so exciting because you're like, oh, I'm not just talking to myself. All these people will come up and have these really nice interactions with you.
You need to do more of those. Those are so fun.
By the way, Yael, the best thing for us is the Fifth Column live shows. They just did one in Burbank and so many people came over to me and they were like, oh, are you Chayla from Ask a Jew? And I'm the only time I'm ever famous is in a little Fifth Column.
We give you guys a lot of love on the show. And Matt is like,
he does.
Matt is like,
Matt talks about you a lot, Chayla.
He's like, go over on Saturday and you're going to get a great meal of discounted. Incredible.
Matt's doing the Chabad work and he's not even Jewish, but he sent me a family whose house burned down and he found out she was Jewish. So he told her, oh, go to Chaylea's house for Shabbat.
And now they live at her house.
And now
you're Somali. I'm Somali Jew. Sure, maybe. I don't know.
No, it's great.
Listen, if you want to talk about this interview on the Fifth Column, we wouldn't hate it. It's completely fine.
I feel like we've maxed out on that.
No, we haven't, but they're like our dads. Like we haven't, I'm not like embarrassed. At this point, I'm not embarrassed by anything I might ask Michael to do.
Yeah, we're like they're like our brothers. You're not young enough to be their
like metaphorically there are podcast dads. Like we were born from the Fifth Column. Whether they and now they just like they're like our deadbeat dads. They like they'll send us a card at Christmas and they won't show up to any of our soccer games. Yeah,
show up once in a while and be like, hey, can I buy your love for a minute?
Exactly.
And it works.
Well, but it's an enormous amount of fun coming on. I love doing it, and I absolutely will promote it on the show. And if I don't mention it next time we're doing one without a guest, text me and I'll
we're gonna go to Stop Anti-Semitism on X and they're gonna post a photo of you.
That would enhance my credibility in my community.
Yeah.
Where I live, it's like, we saw you there. Take whatever you want. Everything's free at this store.
It's true. Well, thank you so much. Happy New Year.
New Year.
And
Happy New Year to you too.
It should be a better year, 2026. We need
we'll beat anti-Semitism next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Q1. Yes. Chayla and I said Q1. That's our goal.
Next year in Jerusalem-ish.
Bye.
Bye.